Hanging out with us. We do appreciate that. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. I'm Rob Ellis. That is Derek Gunn. All right, our next guest joining us, boy, oh boy, Scott Franzke. Just another ho-hum, dull, boring August night at the ballpark, man. I don't know how you stayed awake through that thing last night.
Yeah, just as Harry used to say, you never know what you're going to see when you go to the ball yard. So.
Yeah, well, that was man. Scott, am I correct here? I got the Halladay perfect game, the Halladay no-hitter in the playoffs, the Hamels no-no in his last game as a Philly, and last night. Is that your grand total of the ones that you've called? Did I miss one?
Well, the Phillies had a combined no-hitter in there that Hamels started in Atlanta. I've seen the Phillies get no-hit 3 times.
Yeah.
And I think I counted it up. I did 4 no-hitters in the minors as well. So I've seen a few, and that was only in 3 years. So yeah, I saw a few. I've seen a few.
So Scott, I got to ask you this, because you are a veteran of the no-hitter, both as you just alluded to, both plus and minus. The team you've covered, and you watch your team that you've covered get no hit. So you're approaching the 9th inning, and the intensity is increasing in the ballpark. Everything's electric. In that commercial break preceding that 9th inning, top of the 9th, what's going through your mind in terms of how you want to set it up? Any little things you might want to add along the way of that last inning? How are you preparing for this?
Well, I think number one, you want some of the numbers right. In that moment, you want to know that it's the 14th no-hitter in Phillies history, or things like that. I think I remind myself just to be, sort of be basic about it, and remember. It's really easy to get caught. We have monitors in the booth. We know everybody watches the game on TV, and it's really easy to get caught just watching TV, in a sense. So I think you sort of gently remind yourself, all right, don't forget, there's mechanical things you're supposed to do as a radio announcer that may play into this, defensive alignments or whatever, ball in the gap. We want to know that maybe somebody's there or somebody's not there, things like that. So I just try to remember to do some of that stuff, and whatever, that way I just feel like I'm a little more prepared for whatever might unfold.
Okay. Well, you nailed it, Scott, first of all. But do you subscribe to the don't bring up the no-hitter thing? I know some announcers do, some don't. Where do you fall on that one?
I bring it up. I mean, again, we're on radio, and somebody on the Schuylkill can't see the scoreboard that there's no hits. Mm-hmm. So they have no idea unless I tell them. They might turn it on and they say, well, it's 6-0. Philly's got it in hand. I'm going to go listen to something else.
Right.
So they have to know. And again, as I said, I've seen the end of a lot of these. I've seen them get broken up. But it doesn't change how I feel about it. I've always felt that it needs to be, I mean, you can make, you can mention it or whatever early in a game. But for me, if you get a pitcher through 5 and he hasn't given up any hits, that's always kind of the alert mode. Years and years ago, it used to be that they wouldn't send that bulletin out on the AP until they got through 5. Mm-hmm. And once the bulletin went out, then it was sort of a thing. So I've kind of had that in my head forever, that once it gets through 5, I need to make sure I'm really clear about it. Mm-hmm. And, he gets through 6 and he gets through 7 and he gets through 8. And so I try to be very clear about that throughout. I don't have any superstitions where that goes. I mean, Vin Scully always did it. So if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me.
That's a pretty good guide. Yeah.
Scott, do you always have a lot of people talking in your ear along the way too? In TV, there's somebody always in your ear when you're doing live broadcasts. Is that the same case with you on radio too?
No, it's just Larry and I. I mean, I know last night, Murph's in the booth. Greg Murphy's in the booth with us, but he's not able to talk in my ear. So if he has anything or notices anything, he would have to either tap me and get my attention or write it down. We do have an engineer, a producer engineer in the booth, and he can talk in my ear, but he's not really he's not a stats guy. I think last night I asked them both. I just asked if somebody could look up how many other no-hitters have happened this year.
Mm-hmm.
And they called up for me the complete list. But other than that, we're pretty much kind of on our own on radio.
Okay. Okay.
Did you, Scott? I look, the game's different these days, and when you get to a certain pitch total, sometimes managers don't care. Like, we're getting this guy out. I'm thinking long term.
Yeah.
How much were you and Larry maybe during the breaks debating? Hey, the pitch count is at X. Does he possibly pull this guy in this spot? How where were you guys as far as that fell?
It's funny. Larry and I had a conversation off the air, and he really thought he was going to get pulled after 7 because he was going to be right in the 100 range. And once he went back out for the 8th, Larry's comment to me was, well, if he's going back out for the 8th, he's going back out for the 9th.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's the difference?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to send him into the 8th, you're only doing that because you think there's a pathway to the finish line, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what's the difference? Okay, so you threw 8 no-hit innings. You still didn't throw 9.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, again, the pitch, he was efficient in the 8th, so it made it academic that he would absolutely bring him back out. Now, I didn't know, of course, until afterwards. Rob had told him 20 pitches. After the 7th, he said, you got 20 pitches. And they wouldn't have done that unless he had the extra rest from the previous start, and he's going to get extra rest. They already know that for the next start because of the off days and the 6-man rotation. So Rob is pretty serious about making sure he takes care of players and their arms and not overworking pitchers. And he's really serious about it. As much as it definitely, the team is a part of it, but as much as anything, he feels a responsibility to the player. And sometimes managers have to save players from themselves.
Yeah.
Players want to play and they want to perform, and they don't always make the right choices when it comes in terms of their health. And so he's really serious about it. So I was a little surprised he let him go past 7, but I'm glad he did. I thought,
he said I would have had
I thought it was well done.
Yeah.
No, I thought he handled it perfectly, Scott. And he was funny afterwards. Said I was thinking about pulling him. I'd have put a bulletproof vest on to go out there and get him.
Yeah, no doubt.
And he's not wrong about that. But no, 12 pitches in the 9th. Could you tell? I mean, sometimes when a guy's on early. Did you get any? Because he was laboring a little bit early. I say laboring, it's all relative, but it didn't strike me as like A game stuff right away. How did you feel about it?
The same. He was getting outs, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't, I mean, it's one of the fewest, it's a low strikeout total for a no-hit game. And he wasn't striking out that many guys early. He wasn't. But I think some of that had to do with the changeup. And, he had told us afterwards that he just broke that out. Basically, he hasn't thrown that kind of changeup in over 2 years.
Yep.
And I think some of that was he was using it because he felt like, hey, this is going to work. This is useful for me. But he was still struggling, I think, with the command of it. You'd see him. He'd throw a really good one, fastball, really good changeup, and then he might just throw one in the dirt like 57 feet, right, and really miss with it. So I think there was some, figuring it out and getting a feel for it along the way. But I didn't, we were more focused on the homers and Weston Wilson and Castellanos and that kind of thing early on.
Mm-hmm. And how amazing is that one, Gunnar? Sorry to interrupt you, but the Weston Wilson, I mean,
yeah, that's cool.
28, really cool. I mean, you did minor league games. There are guys like that are just, you know what, man, I'm going to keep going until they rip the jersey off of me. And he's a great example.
Wes thought he was going to make the big leagues a few years ago. He was really close. He was at AAA for Milwaukee, and he thought he had a chance. He felt like he was on the cusp of being called up for the first time. And he had a little bit of shoulder pain, and they ended up they did some tests on him. It turns out he had a blood clot. And it could have been life-threatening. They did that thoracic outlet surgery, and he missed time. And then coming back, it was a real slow process to get back going again. And I think he tried to, he wanted to get back to the point he was at right before the injury. And it was a really slow process to get there. And this year, he came to camp. He really hit well. He was very well liked. I mean, you go have a conversation with him and you can't you're immediately at ease. He's comfortable to talk to and everything else. Super polite and I think was kind of waiting on his time and he didn't miss it. I thought that was really, really cool. I mean, that's something, again, there's been 14 no-hitters, but there's only been 5 guys in franchise history to do what he did.
Yeah.
That's the homer in their first plate appearance.
Jeez. Scott, you go back to last Friday, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but there's something in the air. You go back to last weekend, Trey Turner, the constant standing ovations. He starts stroking the ball the way we've been waiting to see him stroke it all season. 3 consecutive plate appearances. He had, extra base hits, between Saturday and Sunday. Schwarber hits 2 home runs in a game. Turner's also making plays in the field that he should have been making all season long. Then the no-hitter. Weston, first at bat. Castellanos hits 2 first-pitch home runs in a game. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but it's like something's in the air with this team all of a sudden. Can you feel it?
Absolutely. I mean, I think they feel it. I think that's more important. I think the players have, they've all talked about what it meant to see that. I mean, so Lorenzen talked about it after last night's game. You can say all you want about Castellanos or Harper, and they've had some very strong words and obviously glowing things to say about the way the fans handled it. But they were here last year. Mm-hmm. They saw what October was like. They know what this fan base can be like and what they're all about. They've been here a while. Lorenzen, he's been here for 1 homestand, and he's not even through it. And he remarked on it. He said, man, his 3rd day in the organization was the day everybody stood up for Trey Turner. And what does that say to a new player? Like, this is, hey, like, and his quote afterwards was like, I've never been with an organization where the crowd is a part of the team, and it is here. And I think that speaks volumes for and other players will take notice of that too. Just like they did the crowds in the playoffs in the World Series. I mean, so I think it's meant a lot to the players. There's no doubt. I mean, let's not overlook the obvious here. The teams they're playing, the pitching is not as good as what they had faced coming out of the All-Star break. It's not Milwaukee. It's not Cleveland. It's Kansas City and it's Washington. And the Phillies have, after Castellanos last night, the Phillies have 9 times this year they've had a player have a multi-home run game. 6 times it's happened against Washington.
Jeez. So
they're now again, credit to the Phillies. They're doing what they're supposed to do, and that's beat up on teams like this and for an offense. So, but I do think there's that ability to, all right, now we feel better about ourselves. We feel better about our swings. We're locked in better. And yes, the caliber of pitching will be different. When they see the Twins this weekend or next week in Toronto or whatever, and 2 weeks from now against the Giants, it will definitely be different. But I think the point of it is you face these teams who are not as good, who are not as strong right now, and you need to, make some hay, and that's what good teams do.
Scott, I want to go back to something you just mentioned, and you're not a horn tooter. You're not going to toot your own horn, but I'm going to toot your own horn here. So Sunday, after the game, I love the look on your face. Like, where's he going with this?
Yeah.
After the game Sunday, I was on after you guys, after Greg Murphy and then you guys at WIP. So I'm intently listening to everything that you guys are doing. The interview that you did with Harper, you and Larry did with Harper, was absolutely awesome. First of all, and what he had to say went well beyond what players are. Usually players are going to say, yeah, we love these fans. It's great. We love the support. And they're, sincere, but it's like, we've seen it all, whatever. Harper was like opening him, like he was laying on a couch with you guys, like honest to God, man. And it was unbelievable. At one point he said, I only wish I started my career here. Like, for the people who go like the pandering route with Harper, which I don't, I think it's ridiculous, but this guy sincerely loves being here. And I think those guys were all genuinely touched by the Turner thing to the point where it was really like prophetic for them, and you could hear it with Harper on Sunday.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, Harper has always hit the marks. He's really good at the interview part. I mean, he's had to be the face. He's had to be the center of attention for a long time. And that goes, even before he was with the Phillies. But I think he's 100% honest when he says those things. I mean, I don't think he's saying, boy, I wish I never played for the Nationals. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, I really love it here. This is an awesome place to play baseball. And, if in some other universe I could have done it differently, this would have been the place. I mean, now that I've been here and I've seen it and I've witnessed it and I've felt it, this is where he wants to be and what he believes in it. And he's made that connection and the fans have made that connection with him. So again, I don't think he's trying to say, boy, I wish I never played in Washington.
Right.
I think it's more just saying this is a unique situation. And like he said, he's like, I wish everybody could experience it the way he has. And he wishes everybody could see, because he thinks they would all be converts, if you will. They would all be won over in the end to that same way of thinking.
So Rob and I were talking about this earlier. A lot of times when you have this domino effect of great things starting to happen on a team, it has a carryover to the next man up mentality. So it brings me to this, and I mentioned everything that's been happening since last Friday. Now we get Aaron Nola on the hill tonight, okay? And it has been not just a job, but an adventure for Mr. Nola this season.
Yeah.
If you can get inside of Aaron Nola's head right now, and obviously he's been frustrated with what has transpired, what do you think's going through his mind right now? He has to follow up a no-hitter.
Well, he's had to do that before. He had to follow up the last Phillies no-hitter in Chicago when Cole Hamels went, and Nola got his first big league win the next day.
Oh, wow.
In what was his second start in the major leagues. I think, all the things that are happening and the good things that are happening and the vibes and whatever. For Aaron, I think this is still about him figuring some things out. I just don't, to me, he just hasn't seemed 100% right. And I don't know whether it's mechanics. I don't know whether it's approach. I'm not privy to, we don't have the luxury of going through pitch by pitch with Aaron and trying to decipher, well, what was it you were trying to do with a particular pitch? Where are you trying to throw that ball? But I just think, and again, anybody who's listened to the radio over the last few years has heard Larry Anderson say it ad nauseum. He needs to pitch down in the zone, and I firmly believe that. I just don't think he's the same kind of pitcher. He's not a high velo, rising four-seam fastball at the top of the zone kind of guy. That's not him. I think he's got to be down in the zone. His command is going to need to be sharper. And I think his stuff is still, his curveball is still has the potential to be just utterly dominant. You look at his strikeout numbers, they're still there. Is he doing something with runners on that they haven't yet figured out? Perhaps. But the numbers with runners on base are just ridiculously high. And not only that, they're ridiculously different from his career norms. Is that a one-year blip? I don't know. Is it something that other teams have figured out about him? Are they seeing something in his delivery or his setup or whatever that they're picking up from Aaron? You know what I mean? If there's that many instances of with a guy at second base or guys on at first, and then all of a sudden the wheels fall off, either they've got something, or B, he's doing something different mechanically out of the stretch that he doesn't do out of the windup. But to this point, they haven't figured it out. So, but they're going to need to.
How ironic it is, though, that all of this is happening to him in a contract year. Of all years, for this stuff to happen is happening now.
Yeah. And it's not like he's been without struggles before. I know
Right.
2019 was a tough year for him to try to follow up what he did in 18. But at the same time, I think there's still plenty more left in Aaron Nola. But I don't think we've seen the best of Aaron Nola for this year yet.
Scott, team wise, and last year was different because it was such a sprint just to get in. But how do you feel like they're set up right now as we sit here, August 10th? And I know it's real tight with the Giants. They're kind of jockeying back and forth at the top of the wild card, but just generally, from what you're seeing with the big boys kind of coming around with the bats, the starters, the bullpen, just team wise in general.
I mean, team wise, I think they're in decent shape. I think their bullpen obviously could use Alvarado returning.
Yep.
And I think their bullpen could really use Sir Anthony Dominguez being a little better and being a little more like he was at the end of last season. I've heard a lot of theories. I've heard Kevin Stocker's told me before. He said, I really think Sir Anthony needs to pitch more. He's a guy that is better when pitching more often, but they haven't really been able to get him those opportunities because they've tried to protect him so much because he's, been on the IL. He's had arm issues and whatnot. Will we see more of him down the stretch? Perhaps. So I think those two guys, Alvarado and Dominguez, are important. Plus, they take the load off of Soto and Kimbrel. And we've seen Kimbrel looks better when he has more rest.
Yep.
He just does.
Yeah.
And then, the offense, obviously, the last few days, it's a few days and it looks great and you're starting to see what they're capable of being. But I'd love to see it, for a couple of weeks. I'd love to see it against different kinds of pitching staffs. They're going to face some pretty good guys this weekend when Minnesota comes to town. So I'd love to see how they swing the bats with those guys. The series with the Giants is pretty important. I mean, home field is a big deal. The Phillies haven't played well in San Francisco, and
Ever.
Really, in my time here, they just really haven't played that well out there. And that goes back to 06, 07. So that to me would be big, is to make sure you had a home field over those guys. I mean, I know the playoff odds for the Phillies have skyrocketed here in the last week. They're in good standing, but I still think it's a long way to go yet to be printing playoff tickets.
No, I hear you. I noticed when you adjusted the cap, you're not rocking your bling that you got yesterday. Your compadre Greg Murphy was showing it off to us yesterday.
I couldn't even see the screen; it was so blinding.
We were blinded by the light, man. So I'm surprised. We're disappointed you didn't rock it today for the show, man. That was an impressive looking ring, man.
It is impressive. Did Murph show you the box that you open up and it's
no?
We
in a little turntable and it spins around. It's crazy.
No,
really cool of the Phillies to make sure that all the employees got a ring. It was a great gesture and it was a good day yesterday. It made for a long day. We had a doubleheader the night before and Tom and I think we both pulled into the ballpark about 8:30 yesterday morning, and then trying to grind through all that and then to end up with a no-hitter on the back end. It actually probably helped because otherwise I don't think I wouldn't have had enough gas in the tank.
Put a little more pep in your step. Yeah.
Through 9 innings.
Yeah.
I might have had to come out after 7.
So Scott, I got to ask you, like I asked Murph yesterday, will you wear? Murph said he was so nervous about wearing that ring in the booth. Will you ever wear it in public, or will you bury it so far in a safe deposit box you will consider it time capsule material?
I will probably, for the next little while, have it available if there's an event or it's always been a good show and tell piece for a career day at a school or something like that. It is really large and it's in relation to my hand, it's really large, so it looks a little weird to be walking around with it. And again, I don't want to diminish. I mean, I'm all about trying to celebrate the success of the Phillies, and they're the team I work for, and I'm really thankful to have it. I also know I'm lucky because I'm just a broadcaster, and I got hitched to the right star, so to speak, and we just call the teams that are in front of us and try to enjoy it when we can. And yesterday was a really fun day to kind of celebrate as an organization, because there's so many people that spend so many hours and work so hard to put the games on and to make sure the fan experience is what it is. And Rob Thompson, in fact, I'll tell you, there was a moment earlier this season. Rob, I think it was after the doubleheader against the Padres. The Phillies were able to sort of turn the stadium over and get the next crowd in. And somebody, and a lot of employees, just front office employees, helped clean the stadium in between games. And that night after the second game, there was a company-wide email that went out, and Rob Thompson had said, sent it out to all the employees, the entire organization. He said, hey, look, the things you guys do in that front office, if you make the game a better experience for our fans, then they're happier to be at the game, and then they're going to cheer more for us, and that's going to help us win more games. And he believes that. We believe that as an organization, that everybody's a part of it. And so yesterday was a really good day to celebrate that.
That's very
awesome.
cool that Rob did that. That's awesome. All right, last one. I gave some love out yesterday, Scott, to the Media Little League, who won 16-3, and they're one game away from getting to the Little League World Series. I know your son Gus's team went on a pretty crazy run here, the Lower Merion squad. So fill folks in who may not know on that one.
Well, this was for the 13U, is his age, 13 years old. And they play on a little bit bigger field, not quite the big boy field, 60-90, but it's a 50-70 field. So it's a little different age group. But, yeah, they first time ever in Lower Merion Little League history, they were able to have a state champion because they won the state. They won the state of Pennsylvania. That was around about the time of our All-Star break, so I was fortunate to see some of that. And then they went on to the East Regional, lost their opening game. It's a double elimination, and then I think they won 7 straight elimination games, something like that, and forced the championship, but lost in the championship. So they were technically two wins shy of making it to the Little League World Series, which would have been in. They do theirs in California.
Oh, wow.
It was a great ride. It was a lot of fun for the kids. It was a lot of fun for the parents, and certainly wish the kids in media a lot of luck. Do they play today, I guess?
They play, I think, tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow. Yeah, if they, like I said, if they win, they're in. They get to go to Williamsport. Yeah.
Well, we've been talking about it, and the Phillies will be there that Sunday night game next week from this Sunday. So it would be so cool if that media squad was there and they got to hang out with the Phillies players. I think that would be a blast.
That would be. All right, this is just between you, me, and Gunner. Okay, nobody else is listening. How challenging was it to maybe sneak a peek at Gus's game when you were doing a Phillies game as well? How was that? How was that little challenge with the laptop right next to you?
I'll be honest with you. During the state final, the actual state championship game, they were playing some kids from Westchester, and they at one point the game was the exact same score as the Phillies game that I was watching. And I literally, there's no doubt about it. I had them both up and trying to make sure. I'm like, all right, what happened in our game and what happened in the game that I'm actually supposed to be broadcasting here? It was confusing at times, but well worth it. That's for sure.
That's awesome. All right, Scott, listen, thanks for taking a couple minutes, man. Congrats on an awesome call last night.
Thank you.
Tell everybody check it out.
You, bro.
Yeah, but all the best, continued success, and we always love having you on. Thanks, Scott.
All right, thanks, guys. Talk to you again soon.
Be good,
Take care. That is Scott Franzke, Phillies broadcaster, along with Larry Anderson and Kevin Stocker on the road. Great dude, Gunner. He
no question.
Not only is he phenomenal at what he does, he just gets it,
Oh, there's no question about it. I love listening to him, man. He's got that down home feel good type of voice, and it's just so soothing, man. And it's so informative. They're animated, they're informative, and they're like the guys next door calling a game.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah, and he's old school in that he'll describe the trim.
Yeah,
Phillies with the red, red lettering, blue. I love that old school, radio kind of stuff. It's cool.
That's that Vin Scully stuff.
Yes, it is. All right, let's get a timeout. Let's come back. Our sights are set on the Birds when we get back. Some takeaways from today, what some of the guys had to say, what Nick Sirianni had to say. Malcolm Jenkins had practiced today, so a blast from the past. So we'll get into all those kind of things when we come back. That's Derek Gunn. I'm Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. I want to tell you about Jim Merion Principal Financial Group right now, because knowing who to trust, finding that right person that you believe in and who will produce results is critical. And Jim Merion Principal Financial Group, they are the folks for you. Whether it's retirement planning, 401k review, insurance review, you might have a small business, you need help with your employee benefits, that's another resource that Jim can assist you with. I personally have entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollovers with Jim, and I couldn't be any happier. You will be too. Give him a call. 610-996-4751. 610-996-4751. You could also email him as well. Murray, Murray.Jim@principal.com. That's Murray.Jim@principal.com.